Welcome to No Apologies on Beck, where we are unafraid to speak the truth. I'm your host, Rick Becker, co-host Lori Hintz, and we've got a special guest in the house tonight, Eugene Graner.
We're going to get some good prognostications.
We're gonna talk about this whole inflation, deflation, stagflation, and that's going to be interesting. We're going to have him on for 3 segments, so you're going to want to stick around for that. Our first segment tonight, go ahead and pull up the story, gents. This is just to get us started. I pulled this up because this is a story about what Biden was expected to do with regard to vaccines and various other COVID-related mandates. And so rather than delve into that particular story, I do want to talk about what President Biden discussed today in his presser. And so I just took notes. I was watching it and took some, for tonight. I watched it, so you don't have to.
Yeah, thank you for taking one for
But it was late enough that I couldn't formulate graphics or do video clips or anything.
Sure.
So I want to go over a couple of things. First off, as always, there are a couple of things that seem consistent. One is he struggles. He struggles with he didn't take any questions either. And there's some unusual moments. One of the big ones in my mind was just how he ended the conference.
Like abruptly and then walked off?
He just whispered, just vaccinate.
That's
really,
creepy.
it was like that.
That's very creepy.
But this is a very significant, I guess, action by the executive branch in the nation. And I've got a few things. I'm just going to go through them here. He said, quote, "We are in a tough stretch and it could last a while." And I think that's, and he did frequently refer back to how he inherited it and that all the stuff that's good was done since his time, which you would expect a president to do. He said, quote, "This is a pandemic of the unvaccinated." A lot of his speech today was about really pitting again the vaccinated against the unvaccinated.
Because
it really
that's
was.
what they like to do. They like to divide people.
Over and over, yes. He also, this was an interesting quote. "This is not about freedom or personal choice. This is about protecting yourself and those around you." So he's just saying it. So I'm glad he's saying it because this is not about freedom.
No, it's about tyranny is what it's about.
Right,
Thank you
exactly.
very much.
They're not concerned when he says this is not about. What he means is we're not concerned about personal choice. We're not concerned about freedom. We are concerned about protecting you. And he said, quote, "My job as president is to protect all Americans." And I frankly, Mr. President, it is not your job. Not in that sense. It's not in the Constitution.
He also
therefore, it's not your job.
Lied about not shutting down the economy, and lied about vaccines. He's not told the truth on this too. He said one thing, and now he's saying something completely different.
Right. Well, yeah, the usual.
Lying.
So he had a 6-point plan, and one of the big ones is that he is going to require. I assume through OSHA. I was doing some research right afterwards, and the best I can figure is he's going to go through OSHA, Occupational Safety and Health, and they are going to require all private companies with 100 or more employees to require vaccinations. Now, this, in my mind, is an incredible overreach.
Absolutely.
Incredible overreach. But I have a 2-pronged problem with it, and I'm going to go to the easy one first.
Okay.
If this is an appropriate thing to do, and if this is going to save Americans, why the hell would you start at 100 employees? Why would you not start at 1 employee? It doesn't.
That's a great point.
Do you know that there 1/3, at least, from my brief research today, at least 1/3 of all workers are employed in companies with 100 or fewer employees. So 1/3 of the nation, you're not going to be affected by this thing that you say is going to save Americans. It doesn't. Where is the logic? Where is the consistency? There isn't any.
That's right.
Now, the other part, of course, is it's an overreach. This is much like the CDC did not have the right to prevent landlords from evicting people who didn't pay rent. OSHA, I do not believe, and again, looking at things as best I could in a short period of time, in the OSHA regulation, which was passed in 1970, there's a general clause. And they can enact regulations if it, I'm going to find it here because it's actually a good one here.
In July, while you do that,
yes,
the White House said in July it is, quote, not the role of the federal government, end quote, to force Americans to get vaccinated. They said that in
Right.
July, 2 months ago.
Well, you can't, yeah, exactly. They talk
So,
out of both sides of the mouth. You
clearly,
cannot believe anything they say.
I just can't believe the hypocrisy.
But
It's
the
just-
general duty clause of the OSHA Act officially reads, each employer shall furnish to each of his employees employment and a place of employment which are free from recognized hazards that are causing or likely to cause death or serious physical harm. So I believe that's the clause they're going to be working on. The problem is that even in the president's own presser today, he said that if you're vaccinated, you have very little risk of becoming seriously ill. So if you're vaccinated, if you've taken that personal choice, you no longer fall under the general duty clause of the OSHA Act. And so I think this is something that should be litigated. I hope, listen, if there's any employers out there that have 100 or more employees, reach out to us. But I'm going to go on to a few other things here.
Okay.
But that's probably, for me, one of the biggest ones. So they say, they're also going to require mandates for all healthcare workers. So what they're going to do is, if you deal in any manner with Medicare or Medicaid, they're going to force you in any healthcare type of situation to be vaccinated. And I'm sure that the way they're going to do that is through coercion, by saying you don't get your reimbursement, you don't get your fees that you'd be charging as a health provider. So that's
unconstitutional. This is totally unconstitutional. It's un-American.
Right.
The whole thing.
And I think that would fall under probably some of the anti-commandeering clause legislation that has come before. All federal employees will be required to be vaccinated. All federal contractors. So if you are a business that would like to do business with the federal government, whatever it might be, you have to have all of your employees vaccinated. The president said, your refusal has cost all of us.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Those of you who have been vaccinated, I understand your anger against those who are not vaccinated.
Oh my goodness, he said that. That part I didn't hear. That is, it is so divisive.
Yeah, absolutely. And then he talked about boosters. And what's very interesting, he's saying the shots, the boosters, that's where boosters come in. They're the shots that give you even more protection than your first shots. What he's not saying, this is what is being talked about in all of the different news outlets.
Yeah, this is
even
not
better
science.
protection,
Yeah.
even better protection. What they're not saying is that the reason you need the boosters is because the vaccines have lost their efficacy as far as immunity. So it's not that, hey, wow, it's even better. You were here after your vaccines and now you're here. No, you were here and it goes down 4, 5, 6 months. It's Israel. The studies in Israel have shown us.
Yep.
You lose it. So it's a crappy shot that you need a booster to keep it going. So that was very interesting. He made a claim, this I have yet to verify and look at a study that might have said this. Children in low vaccination states are 4 times more likely to be hospitalized than those that are in high vaccination states. So I think that is going to be a very, very questionable one. All teachers that deal with Head Start will be vaccinated. He calls on all governors to require vaccinations for all teachers and all staff.
This is
He
punishing
went after
small businesses and minorities, Rick.
Oh yeah.
They're the ones who are not getting vaccinated.
Yep. Anyway, they're going to make home tests available at Kroger's and Walmart's and wherever else. They are going to double the number of military members that are out there testing. They're going to make the emergency economic injury and disaster loans go from a max of $500,000 to $2 million. So they're just going to be tossing more and more money out into the economy. So we can talk to Gene about that. The last thing I wanted to say is that he also has talked about that they will be increasing the availability of new medicines promoted by real doctors, not conspiracy theorists. And so that's, and then the last thing he said, next month he's going to have another plan to do even more with regard to future pandemics. So there is a lot that happened today, folks, and there is going to be a lot of fallout. We're going to have to discuss it. I want to look more into this OSHA and so much more. So that's the wrap up for today's press release or speech, whatever it was, by President Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. So next up, folks, stick with us. We are going to have Eugene Graner talk to us all about the money.
When you can't find answers to your recurring health challenges, it can feel like your health and your future are being held hostage. The Wellness Way is a network of health restoration clinics that think and act differently to solve the health challenges others can't. Here, we disrupt the standard approach to care through a combination of testing, individual plans, and one-on-one guidance, putting your health and your future where they belong, in your own hands.
40 years ago, Aero Service Team started with one truck and lots of hard work.
Times may have changed, but the hard work that we put in to get your lives back in order after fire, water, and disaster hasn't.
Over the years, we've seen so many families lose their belongings due to water and fire damage. Restoring homes back to the original state has made every hour of hard work well worth it.
Thank you for trusting our family with yours.
When disaster strikes, you only have to make one call. Aero Service Team does it all.
It's every American's right to bear arms. At Mandan Sporting Goods, we're here to help you support your Second Amendment rights, which reads, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Whether you're looking for a pistol for personal defense or collector gun, we have the staff to help you. We also have the area's largest inventory of ammo and reloading supplies.
Mandan Sporting Goods, the area's local gun and ammo specialists.
40 years ago, Aero Service Team started with one truck and lots of hard work.
Times may have changed, but the hard work that we put in to get your lives back in order after fire, water, and disaster hasn't.
Over the years, we've seen so many families lose their belongings due to water and fire damage. Restoring homes back to the original state has made every hour of hard work well worth it.
Thank you for trusting our family with yours.
When disaster strikes, you only have to make one call. Aero Service Team does it all.
Every great pizza has a secret. At New York To Go, that secret lies in our perfectly recreated New York water, the key ingredient to making our signature New York-style pizza. We also feature Heroes, with the region's only Hero meat spit, plus Nathan's hot dogs, calzones, and our delicious jumbo buffalo wings. Try a 14-inch or our special giant 20-inch pizza tonight. You gotta know how to fold them if you want to hold them. New York To Go, we deliver for you.
At Beck Communications, we've been planning for your future. Over the past decade, we've placed nearly 200,000 miles of dedicated fiber optics in the ground, enough fiber optic strands to circle the world 8 times. Taking no shortcuts, we connected every home and business in our service area with dedicated fiber optics. It's your personal, unrestricted, unthrottled connection to the world. Best of all, this dedicated fiber means you do not share your connection. We call this intimate dedicated connection Beck Fiber.
Welcome back. It's No Apologies, and we have in the house Eugene Graner, president of Heartland Investor Services. Is that correct?
Yes, and
All right.
heartlandinvest.com.
And heartlandinvest.com. Well, we're glad to have you. Lori and I had was it last week, I guess it must have been, where we were discussing about inflation versus stagflation, and there are a lot of markers that seem to be raising concern.
Yes.
And what we said is, you know what, well, here's how we're looking at it. We're going to defer to the expert and have Eugene on. You're in the house. Tell us and our viewers what's happening in the United States.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to come on here. I think before we talk about where we're going, let's do a little education so the average viewer understands and we're not going over the top and it's a blur. First, before you get to stagflation, we got to talk about inflation and how it, when you're controlled by a central banking system, how they have generated stagflation before. The Federal Reserve was given the responsibility from Congress in 1913 when they turned over the responsibility to run the economy by a private banking conglomerate. I think the viewers would enjoy going on the internet, pulling up from Jekyll Island, pull up Jekyll Island on Federal Reserve and how it was invented. And you'll find out it's quite surprising that it's not an audited organization. Imagine being able, this was in 1913, it was exactly like the health care bill. It was passed in the dark of night, Christmas Eve, no social media, and how it's been run since then. The creature from Jekyll Island, that's what it is. And the reality is they're unaudited. They manage our money. They turn back over whatever their profits are left after managing their money, building their granite buildings all across the country, and whatever's left, they give back to the Treasury, which is nice. But imagine having a farm or a business for 113 years, 107 years, multi-generational, and you just pay the IRS what you think you have left or what they're owed, and you're never audited. Never audited, yeah. So it's kind of enjoyable to hear about the Federal Reserve. And so the Federal Reserve is in charge of what we do. And now the inflation that the average person is concerned about, the Federal Reserve doesn't worry about. The Federal Reserve rates their inflation based off the CPI, the Consumer Price Index, and more importantly, the core CPI. Now, what's interesting about core CPI is the average American, their daily expenses are food and energy.
Yep.
Core CPI has no food and energy.
Of course not.
Imagine surviving in North Dakota and not worrying about your cost of living, your heat bill in the wintertime, your food bill during the every day of life. They don't worry about core inflation. Now, the word core, by definition, is the basics, the bottom line, what you need. And it's not included in what we need for living. So moving on, they worry and concern themselves with the cost of TVs, durable goods, the cost of cars. Well, gee, it's funny. I know a person who just sold a used vehicle that was worth $10,000 a year ago, sold it a month ago for $18,500. I mean, inflation has skyrocketed, by virtue of what's going on. And we hear Chairman Powell, when he talks about inflation, he says, oh, don't worry. Inflation is transitory.
Oh, yes, we love that word.
That word transitory, well, it's a very sweet word. Well, transitory, he's correct. Inflation is transitory. But what is his timing of it? I brought with some information here that I'm going to show the consumers on the screen here if we can. And the first screen we're going to bring up, it shows that in measuring inflation, the Federal Reserve is struggling with it because it's been so erratic that they've actually suspended tracking it. And this is a screenshot from the Federal Reserve Bank of North Dakota, and you can read at the bottom, suspension notification. The uncertainty around the pandemic and the consequent volatility of the data have posed a number of challenges for their nowcast model, meaning we're just not going to track it because we're having a hard time because it's so volatile. So it's kind of like, don't worry about the man behind the curtain or whatever
Nothing
information.
to see here, folks.
Nothing to see here.
But,
so
it's because it's volatile in the wrong direction.
Right, it's not volatile down, it's volatile up, which there'll be another chart coming up for this. So when we get to the talking of the word transitory, Chairman Powell will be right. The problem is the duration until it gets there. Well, the next slide we bring up will to bring to mind when we had inflation before in a bad way. You see there on the left, this is the tracking of inflation via the Consumer Price Index when the cost of TVs and everything else is associated in there, and it's averaged out across the country. Because remember, when you live in the country, you have a lower cost of living. When you live in the city, you have a higher cost of living, so it averages it out. But look at how from 1970 to 1980, the explosive inflation that we had, that whole decade was inflation. And transitory came to the end in 1982, and I'll get to why. And then from 1982, we level it off, and now on the far right of the chart is present day through July. Look at that inflation start to take off. Look at that red line and blue line. That red line never lifted its ugly head that high since the 80s. Now, why did that, to the left, the 70s, all that inflation all of a sudden come to an end? Well, it was called the new Fed Treasurer Volcker under Ronald Reagan, when they mopped up all the hundreds of billions of dollars, not trillions, mind you, hundreds of billions of dollars they laid into the Federal Reserve, to the economy during the 70s. Oh, and here's another little note. Notice to the left of the chart, everything was kind of leveled off, and then right when we got into about 1973, that's when everything took off. Well, that's when we went off the gold standard, and the Federal Reserve was able to unleash money without the responsibility of having more gold to release it. They could just invent money in perpetuity without the concern of having it backed by at least a fractional amount of gold. And so with this, the interest rates exploded in the 80s to the 18, 19%, leveled things off, they got back control of the economy, and with fits, you can see there, we've seen the market start to recover. So transitory, yeah. But Federal Reserve,
could be 10 years,
could be a decade.
We're all thinking when he says it's 6 months to a year.
Yeah, no.
This thing is just getting warmed up.
Interesting.
So, got more to show you.
Very interesting. All right. Well, hey, that's a good place to take a little break.
It is.
Let's come back. I've got a lot of questions for you, and I know you have a lot more information for our viewers. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back in about 2 minutes or so.
When you can't find answers to your recurring health challenges, it can feel like your health and your future are being held hostage. The Wellness Way is a network of health restoration clinics that think and act differently to solve the health challenges others can't. Here, we disrupt the standard approach to care through a combination of testing, individual plans, and one-on-one guidance, putting your health and your future where they belong, in your own hands.
40 years ago, Aero Service Team started with one truck and lots of hard work.
Times may have changed, but the hard work that we put in to get your lives back in order after fire, water, and disaster hasn't.
Over the years, we've seen so many families lose their belongings due to water and fire damage. Restoring homes back to the original state has made every hour of hard work well worth it.
Thank you for trusting our family with yours.
When disaster strikes, you only have to make one call. Aero Service Team does it all.
Prairie Patriot Firearms and Training is the region's most complete gun and training center. 5-lane indoor range, a gun shop, and a certified training facility. Firearms training courses are offered daily for new, intermediate, and advanced shooters. If you're not comfortable in a classroom setting, Prairie Patriot offers one-on-one private lessons, from basic self-defense training to concealed weapons testing, along with a full line of guns, ammunition, holsters, and concealment clothing. Prairie Patriot, 3930 Memorial Highway, prairiepatriot.com.
40 years ago, Aero Service Team started with one truck and lots of hard work.
Times may have changed, but the hard work that we put in to get your lives back in order after fire, water, and disaster hasn't.
Over the years, we've seen so many families lose their belongings due to water and fire damage. Restoring homes back to the original state has made every hour of hard work well worth it.
Thank you for trusting our family with yours.
When disaster strikes, you only have to make one call. Aero Service Team does it all.
Every great pizza has a secret. At New York To Go, that secret lies in our perfectly recreated New York water, the key ingredient to making our signature New York style pizza. We also feature Heroes with the region's only Hero meat spit, plus Nathan's hot dogs, calzones, and our delicious jumbo buffalo wings. Try a 14-inch or our special giant 20-inch pizza tonight. You gotta know how to fold them if you want to hold them. New York To Go, we deliver for you.
It's every American's right to bear arms. At Mandan Sporting Goods, we're here to help you support your Second Amendment rights, which reads, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Whether you're looking for a pistol for personal defense or collector gun, we have the staff to help you. We also have the area's largest inventory of ammo and reloading supplies.
Mandan Sporting Goods, the area's local gun and ammo specialists.
Welcome back. It's No Apologies on Beck, your after-hours oasis of sanity. I'm your host, Rick Becker, co-host Lori Hintz, our special guest, Eugene Graner. So, Gene, that was I think, very helpful for both Lori and I and our viewers. And so let's continue on with that. I've got a couple questions then to follow. But you've laid the groundwork and kind of show us where we're at and where things are headed, if you would.
Why
talk about
inflation is
shortages and
Yes.
why they continue.
See, we've got this inflation that's starting to kick in slowly. The velocity of money is not allowed to do its dirty work yet because of shortages. Even the New York Fed, they track shortages. They have a beige book. If you can bring the next chart up. And when we talk about this transitory, it is nowhere yet to have ended. If you look at this beige book, these are quarterlies. These go back to April of 2020 in the little red bars, shortages of items starting out at 5%. And we just go to the last recent quarter on the far right. That chart is still going up with, well, for that frankly, no end in sight yet.
Right.
And part of this is the ability to get products online. I mean, still try to order appliances right now, 6 months out. Chips, whatever it is. Thousands of Ford vehicles and other vehicles waiting for chips. They're manufactured, they can't run them yet. Right. So these shortages. And so you have this easy flow of money that's accessible that can create this inflation when people are like, I don't care what it costs, give it to me. Now, we don't have the velocity of money yet rolling in there to really see the true effects of inflation because you have a lot of people that have stayed unemployed purposely. Yep. Because of the government programs that have been allowed to extenuate this. I won't get kicked out of my house, so why pay my rent? I've heard of renters that have some guys that have a job, but they're purposely not paying their rent, saving it up for a down payment on a house. I've heard stories. from some renters that they know they're working, yet they're not paying because they can't be evacuated out of the house because they plan on buying a house quickly with all the money that's been saved. But whether they're pursued or not for that is another story. So back to square one. You have a lot of people that are not back into the working economy, creating this flip of money, availability to spend, and that's when your inflation can really get going. But the problem is now we're also seeing inflation coming from government pullbacks. The money wants to pay for it, but it can't be there. And I'll refer to the most obvious elephant in the room: oil. Here, Biden comes along and pulls back the ability to move oil freely through the Keystone Pipeline, which encourages more production of oil, which has made us wonderful. And by the way, people need to know the reason why the oil market did not explode during Hurricane Ida as opposed to what it did during Hurricane Katrina. Hurricane Katrina did more widespread damage, but more oil was shut off in the Gulf during Hurricane Ida than back in Katrina. Why did oil not go vertical like last time? Because back in 2005, remember, shale production of oil was in its infancy. We were just getting underway. North Dakota was almost as the word, becoming on the map. We were still number 4 in the nation or something, not number 2 behind Texas. And so shale oil production throughout North Dakota, through down into Oklahoma and Texas, the Permian Basin, that the total amount of oil that comes out of the Gulf is only equal to 17% of the total United States oil production.
Oh, wow.
Downgraded that from the last 16 years from well over 30%. So when oil got shut in out in the Gulf, it was a less percentage than it was now. That's why the response to oil was not as dramatic as you would have expected. So as we're in this inflation environment, we're creating an economy that still doesn't want to move. And if you have people not going to work or high costs eventually causing people to back off, that's when stagflation kicks in. And stagflation was a problem in the 70s because remember, Carter was dealing with a lot of high unemployment and the economy was sluggish because people couldn't afford things. Things were expensive. Remember that chart I showed in the first segment? The 70s was an inflationary window, and Carter, it dogged him all that time, the economy, in spite of whatever the Federal Reserve was doing. So stagflation is an ugly animal when you have inflation because of shortages, whether man-made via a president or shortages because of a pandemic or whatever that might be. But then to buy these goods, you have limited employment, which is kind of what we have come through.
It's the perfect storm of all the bad things.
And this could continue forward if inflation isn't checked. And so that's the job of the Federal Reserve, is to start standing back and say, you know what, maybe we should let the real economy start to take control in here and actually give the saver money some money. The flow of money is not the problem. It's the willingness of people wanting to spend or have jobs to spend. And it sounds twisted, but money, having it, has never been a problem. And it's not a problem when we get into stagflation. The problem is an economy that just doesn't want to move. And that is, well, we have a generation that right now, through the pandemic, kind of enjoyed its time off.
Sitting on their
So I'm not sure that we're hearing the real bad news with stagflation. Like how does it affect people? I mean, it sounds like there are a couple of things that when they come together, they're called stagflation, right? Inflation plus poor economy and high unemployment.
Stagflation is short for stagnant economy hitting inflation. Okay, so they shorten the word. So we got to widen that word back out again. A stagnating economy hitting inflation. Well, the last jobs number last month was a big upset.
Dismal.
It dropped. Okay, well, we can call that a one-off. Okay, we can go into another one and we can make up some other excuse for that too. Well, the variants kicked in and we had some new lockdowns. That's number 2. But the third month in a row, that's a trend, if they stay down. And so as the job losses continue, the economy just, it self-implodes on itself because you have people that are not buying items, but items are still staying expensive via the easy flow of money for it's more the haves and have-nots.
Sure.
I've got money, I've got a job, you don't, but I'm still willing to pay for it. And so inflation of items stays high. Now, when it comes to grains, okay, grains are an item where we are inflating. The price of spring wheat in North Dakota doubled from last year. But our drought had more to do to this than the actual flow of money. But the overall general cost of grain does float higher with a cheap dollar, because if the dollar were to go down, it takes more U.S. dollars abroad to buy our grain. and that is liquidity. That causes our grain prices to go up. It's the understanding of, I always have to explain this. If you measure money like on a ruler, if $6 wheat is 6 inches on the ruler, okay, everything is even. But if we drop the value of the dollar and that ruler is now being shortened in size, I need 8 inches because the dollar is my ruler, and so as the value of the dollar goes less, I need more inches on that ruler to buy that same bushel of wheat. So that's how the price of wheat goes up when foreigners come to buy our grain. So that's the problem with inflation of grain, is it doesn't stick, because as the price of grain goes up, farmers ramp up production of it. And it's easy to increase production on the same land by just better fertilizer, pray for good rain, buying better genetic seed rather than running seed-run wheat bin from the bin. City people don't realize this, that hybrid seeds are expensive, and you can tolerate loss by utilizing seed that's multiple crops have come off of it. You don't get as good as production, but if you're making money at it at a lower cost of production for lower price wheat, that's fine. But when wheat's expensive, you're willing to buy a good seed and increase your production to capture that money. So, and the good Lord made a harvest around this earth every 3 months of wheat. Corn, it's twice a year. But as the earth tips, you think about our summers in the northern hemisphere, they start planting in the southern part of the country, well into Canada. Well, they start harvesting wheat back in May, and the harvest ends in Canada in September. So it goes over a long period of time, over 2 quarters. You're starting in May, going May, June, July, August, September. Then we start harvesting grain in Australia later on this fall, which ends in the southern hemisphere. We start in the north and we move south. We start in Australia, over in Brazil, and move south into Argentina as the earth tips.
Wow.
But every 3 months there's a wheat crop harvested. So as we get these quick price advances in inflation on grains, they're tamped down quicker by overproduction from the farmers. These stories of starvation in the world are false. We will never starve. The ability to overproduce grain in this world is so easy. We have land banks. We have land that's taken out of production.
Well, that's good to know.
All around it. It can be torn up so quickly and re-farmed so quick that, and the farmers, the ingenuity that they have, pay them, they'll provide it for you. And farmers are always kept on the throttle, held back. Price is immediately crushed as soon as the production is, there's 2 extra loaves of bread on the shelf. Oh, we got to take the price of grain down. And so starvation is not going to happen, because just by responding on price, so much can come.
I want to bring you back to a question, and we're going to hit it at our next segment, but I want to go back to the problem with stagflation.
Okay.
And the question I have for you is, when Lori and I talked previously about it, when you have inflation, which you shouldn't have if you're not printing money, at least not much, but when you have inflation, you can address it by increasing interest rates.
Yes.
But stagflation, you're kind of boxed into a corner where you can't do that, and that's what I want you to discuss next segment. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back.
When you're buying windows, make sure you're comparing apples to apples. Hi, I'm Jesse with the Window Source. We only sell you the best windows and doors for the best price. Call the Window Source. Just because you pay less doesn't mean you get less.
Every great pizza has a secret. At New York To Go, that secret lies in our perfectly recreated New York water, the key ingredient to making our signature New York style pizza. We also feature gyros with the region's only gyro meat spit, plus Nathan's hot dogs, calzones, and our delicious jumbo buffalo wings. Try a 14-inch or our special giant 20-inch pizza tonight. You gotta know how to fold them if you want to hold them. New York To Go. We deliver for you.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, inventor of MyPillow. Thanks to your support, you've helped make MyPillow become one of the fastest growing companies in America. Over the last 12 years, you've helped MyPillow create thousands of jobs right here in the USA.
When I got MyPillow, I'm asleep almost immediately. I stay asleep at night and I wake up more well-rested in the morning.
That's why I invented MyPillow. My patented fill adjusts to your exact individual needs and helps keep your neck supported and aligned. I'm interrupting this commercial right now. Retailers have canceled My Pillow, and to thank you for your support, I'm going to pass the savings directly on to you. Go to MyPillow.com right now to get deep discounts on all My Pillow products. For example, you can get my premium My Pillows regularly $69.98, now just $29.98, the lowest price ever.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit mypillow.com.
It's every American's right to bear arms. At Mandan Sporting Goods, we're here to help you support your Second Amendment rights, which reads, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Whether you're looking for a pistol for personal defense or collector gun, we have the staff to help you. We also have the area's largest inventory of ammo and reloading supplies.
Mandan Sporting Goods, the area's local gun and ammo specialists.
At Beck Communications, we've been planning for your future. Over the past decade, we've placed nearly 200,000 miles of dedicated fiber optics in the ground. Enough fiber optic strands to circle the world 8 times. Taking no shortcuts, we connected every home and business in our service area with dedicated fiber optics. It's your personal, unrestricted, unthrottled connection to the world. Best of all, this dedicated fiber means you do not share your connection. We call this intimate dedicated connection Beck Fiber.
Welcome back. It's No Apologies on Beck, and we are here with Eugene Graner. And have we pulled up Eugene's website yet? If not, let's go ahead and do that.
Heartlandinvest.com for Heartland Investor Services.
And we have coming up next week, we're on Apple right now waiting to get on Google, but we also have heartlandinvestpodcast.com.
Oh,
a lot
nice.
of podcasting going on. It's our daily information we put out, what's going on in the marketplace, in the world of commodities in general. And we talk about cryptos and such on there as well. So that's coming up next week. It's on Apple now, it'll be on Google next week.
Excellent.
So back to my question, the downside of stagflation is how do you get out of it? And I just don't see a good way to get out of it that doesn't make it last a long time. So take that.
don't. You almost answered your question as you were leaving the last segment. The problem where stagflation really becomes a problem is when I showed that chart where the 70s was all the inflation and the 80s the inflation was tamped out. That's because the economy was tamped down too at the same time. We had seen the reality of high interest rates, came in and exploded to 18, 19%. Well, that crushed the stock market initially into 1982. The economy was a more real economy under Ronald Reagan because what saved us was he slashed personal income taxes from over 70% to levels that are lower than present day right now. Mm-hmm. And that stimulated an actual real economy that got underway. And the stock market then had bottomed out in 1982. It was stagnant for a while. It jumped into 1987. Then we had the stock market crash in 1987. That started all over again. So by the time we left the 1980s, we were looking better. But interest rates had already peaked out in 1984, 85. But we still were, I can remember in 1988, I had already been out of high school years, and my checking account, I would never have much cash in my wallet because my checking account was paying 10%. So I'd go to town from the farm, and then I'd go at the bar or whatever that night. I'd write a check for how much money I'm going to spend because God forbid I had $50 in my pocket not making 10%.
Right.
10% was still being paid on checking accounts in the late 80s. Sure. And so moving forward, it's this stagflation that when the Federal Reserve will have to move someday. Now, they're already talking about it. They believe they want to stop the monthly injections in the repo market at night, $40 billion. They're likely to start announcing in November that someday they're going to start this. Remember, the last time they raised interest rates, it took them 2 years of conversation before they ever got around to it. Mm-hmm. Did it for 1 year, then, of course, the pandemic hit, and they removed all of that thought of it, and then injected another $10 trillion between the U.S. government borrowing from them and giving away this money, like the CARES Act. Oh, by the way, the new bill, our senators Kramer and Hoeven are wrong. Using the portion of the CARES Act that's left over help pay for this bill. No, CARES Act was invented money. You're taking invented money and moving it over and saying now it's real money and paying for that act. That's not true. So back to square one is the coming likely interest rate hikes that will have to occur in the future because inflation will happen. These people that are now maybe hopefully going back to work, even in the banks, local Wells Fargo, I pulled up to the 4th Street, they have those 6 bays to pull, it's closed. So then I drove up to another Wells Fargo bank drive up and All terminals were closed except for one. I asked her, what's going on? She said, well, we're short-staffed. They're trying to hire more people. Even banks are struggling to find people. But once this environment of staying home, not working for a living kind of subsides, and these people go to work, you'll get the velocity of money. That's what needs to occur. And so right now they're targeting sometime the end of 2022 might be the first interest rate hike. And then when they do it, it'll be a quarter of a rate. It'll be very measured. But if it's just very measured, inflation might be rearing its ugly head ahead of them, and they may have to break course and not be measured and jump a half a point movements.
Gene, what is it that you suggest consumers do? Is there something that they can invest in, or something that you would suggest?
Well, here's the thing. Until we get to this stagflation point, the stock market has been a wonderful place. I brought a stock market chart along. It's just something for people to realize. Now, your wealth managers all out there, have done very well. They're in it for the long haul, strategic investing every month, put money into the stock market. It's great, it's great, it's great. And they have been right. Now, this chart I brought you, this is S&P 500. This is going back to the beginning of after 2008. You can see at the left side of the chart. That's 2009, that bottom that I draw that right line off of. And that was the start of quantitative easing after the 2008-2009 banking crisis. And the solving of that problem was injecting massive amounts of liquidity. And at that time, the Federal Reserve carried a $5 trillion balance sheet. And that balance sheet, from then to that large dip to the right where you see it falls under that right line, that's the pandemic last year. That's when the Federal Reserve stepped in and injected another $15+ trillion in, while the U.S. government added $10 trillion to that. And so where is this money going? Mostly into the stock market. The economy, yes, it's there, but a lot of this money has always found its way into the stocks, and the producer of goods. And so this is a wonderful 13-year trend. Now, what I should have brought leave that chart up just for a second. What I should have brought was the charts from the 70s. You know what happened to the Dow Jones in the 70s? If you invested your money in 1969, from 1969 to 1982, you made exactly nothing.
Wow.
There was no return on your money. Most young analysts today, or your wealth management people that work with you, they don't want to show you that. They just tell you that over the long haul, you've made this.
Probably weren't alive.
Yeah, they weren't alive yet. Yeah. I was. Rick and I were playing on the playground back then in the 70s. But the long story short is that chart that you see that's vertical right there, that's because of the ever declining interest rates that have stayed in place, zero interest rates, and injections overnight by how the Federal Reserve invents money.
Yep.
They go into open market operations, they'll buy bank securities, they'll compete for other money, which displaces other money because they invented it digitized.
So stay in the stocks, go to Bitcoin, do what?
Well, here's the thing.
You got like a minute and a half.
Timing is an imperfect science. It's more of an art. When the sense that the Federal Reserve is going to start raising interest rates will not exactly stop the stock market. It's the concern that the Federal Reserve finds themselves behind, the curve of inflation, that it's become a monster and it's getting out of control.
Right.
That if they start cranking that interest rate hike, that stock market chart's going to get in trouble. And that's going to be when the wealth that's in the stock market is going to be a concern. And when the interest rates start going up, the U.S. dollar will also simultaneously start to strengthen. Because what they're doing, when Volcker went in and started raising interest rates to what ended up being 18%, the U.S. dollar exploded to its highest valuation it's ever seen. Par 60. Par is what it should be worth, and it was 60% over par. Today we're at 92% of par. We're under par. Wow. The worst was 2008 when we hit 72, 74 cents to par. We were under par. And so what happens is the dollar will actually go up. Now, how that affects gold will be negative, but how it affects cryptos may be different, because cryptos are becoming the new median. Remember, what is the U.S. dollar? It is not a dollar, it is a fiat. It is a fiat currency by decree. It stopped being an actual physical dollar when it lost the gold standard. So was the German mark, so was the French franc. Any currency out there right now, they all have central banks. They are all fiats. What does fiat mean? By decree, it's backed by nothing. Well, what is Bitcoin? Fiat, backed by nothing, but it's decree of the people. The people determine its value. So the likelihood of cryptos surviving the interest rate hike are much grander than the stock market. Now I'm sure you're going to have a lot of wealth management guys that will have a cross opinion with this, and that's fine. But history is on my side for what's taking place. And the stock market will struggle if interest rate increases have to accelerate more than what the Fed's measured talk is.
It seems to me that when people recognize how significant and true inflation is, that they will start to pull money from the stock market and put into more traditional
savings. Do you realize how many 74 to
bonds,
85-year-old people don't have money in savings when they're supposed to be? When I got into the business of stockbrokering back in 1990, okay, I just said my age, the reality was you were told when somebody is 70 years old, they have 70% of their investments in interest-bearing investments. Now they're all in the stocks. They're in the NASDAQ. They're everywhere.
Right. All right,
Thank you
Jean,
so
thank
much
you.
for all the good information.
Lots to digest there. All right, folks, we are going to be right back to a little off the cuff. Thank you once again, Jean.
When you can't find answers to your recurring health challenges, it can feel like your health and your future are being held hostage. The Wellness Way is a network of health restoration clinics that think and act differently to solve the health challenges others can't. Here, we disrupt the standard approach to care through a combination of testing, individual plans, and one-on-one guidance, putting your health and your future where they belong, in your own hands.
40 years ago, Aero Service Team started with one truck and lots of hard work.
Times may have changed, but the hard work that we put in to get your lives back in order after fire, water, and disaster hasn't.
Over the years, we've seen so many families lose their belongings due to water and fire damage. Restoring homes back to the original state has made every hour of hard work well worth it.
Thank you for trusting our family with yours.
When disaster strikes, you only have to make one call. Aero Service Team does it all.
Spas, etc. Yeah. You've come to know and trust us for over 18 years with the largest selection and showroom in Western North Dakota for our beautiful Sundance spas. Plus, you could pick out your next home experience with our selection of pool tables, shuffleboards, and fun accessories.
Spas, etc. Your relaxation destination on Main and Bismarck.
40 years ago, Aero Service Team started with one truck and lots of hard work.
Times may have changed, but the hard work that we put in to get your lives back in order after fire, water, and disaster hasn't.
Over the years, we've seen so many families lose their belongings due to water and fire damage. Restoring homes back to the original state has made every hour of hard work well worth it.
Thank you for trusting our family with yours.
When disaster strikes, you only have to make one call. Aero Service Team does it all.
Every great pizza has a secret. At New York To Go, that secret lies in our perfectly recreated New York water, the key ingredient to making our signature New York-style pizza. We also feature gyros, with the region's only gyro meat spit, plus Nathan's hot dogs, calzones, and our delicious jumbo buffalo wings. Try a 14-inch or our special giant 20-inch pizza tonight. You gotta know how to fold them if you want to hold them. New York To Go, we deliver for you.
It's every American's right to bear arms. At Mandan Sporting Goods, we're here to help you support your Second Amendment rights, which reads, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Whether you're looking for a pistol for personal defense or collector gun, we have the staff to help you. We also have the area's largest inventory of ammo and reloading supplies.
Mandan Sporting Goods, the area's local gun and ammo specialists.
Welcome back. It's No Apologies, and we are at our fifth and final segment. So, Lori, you've got some off the cuff.
Why don't you just do a little recap so that people know what we're doing here with Off the Cuff, so explain it.
Oh, I'll explain it.
Yeah,
yes.
you can explain it.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
So Off the Cuff is we just kind of do a fun thing where Lori comes up with questions, and she's got some supporting data that she poses to me, and we don't let me know about what it is she's going to ask, so we can try and just apply simple foundational principles and answer them. We'll see if I'm going to be made a fool or not.
No, you have yet to do that, so that's good. No, the first one I want to show you is a fee.com article, which is interesting because
Foundation for Economic Education.
Yeah, and you actually, just said this just the other night. I was like, wow, I got that all planned out here too. Yeah, this actually, the Foundation for Economic Education was established in 1946. It's nothing new. Also, this first graphic will show you that 10 states leading the economic recovery all have one thing in common. Can you guess what that one thing could possibly be? But the interesting thing is the same thing with the worst as well, too. So the next one, as we move on, will show you these are the 10 states with the lowest unemployment rates, and you will see that North Dakota is not among them. You will see, however, that Nebraska, Utah, New Hampshire, South Dakota, Idaho are all there. Okay, so the next one shows you the 10 states with the worst states, counting Washington, D.C. in there, with the highest unemployment rates. You will see that North Dakota is not in this group either. But Arizona, Louisiana, Pennsylvania, and then way down at the bottom, you got yourself your New York and Nevada with 7.7% at the worst, too. So my question is where is North Dakota? Neither in the top tier nor the bottom tier. Where is North Dakota, and why are we not in the top of this list? And shouldn't we be? Because we've got this great conservative leadership, so how is it that we're not?
We don't have great conservative leadership.
I'm being
what
facetious.
The hell? Oh, okay. Sorry. Okay.
We are told we have great conservative leadership.
Okay, yes.
That's what we're told.
Yep.
And we do have all conservatives in all of the positions.
No, we don't.
We have supermajorities in both houses.
Of Republicans, yes.
Of Republicans.
Yes.
Okay. So my question is where are we on the list then? If we're not in the top and we're not in the bottom.
Then we're in the middle.
That's right.
So, okay, but what we don't know, so I'm not sure, okay. I'm assuming, but you have not told us yet, what it is that puts those states in the top or the bottom.
Well,
and I'm assuming that it has something to do with lockdowns, not having them or having them, or the fact that they're, and I didn't look at the list closely enough, either Democrat or Republican governors. Do we know what the...
It's okay. So the article, it says that the recovery isn't equal all across 50 states. So they're talking about the recovery in first place. Many different factors, of course, influence the unemployment rates. But one thing that they have glaring that is in common is Republican governors.
Okay. Yep.
So we have a Republican governor.
Right, but we don't have a conservative governor. He's Republican in name only, and I think that's why we're not on the list. If he were behaving like a governor who had the principles of the platform of the North Dakota Republican Party, then we would be in the top 10 for sure. If because of our wealth and the revenue that has been bestowed to us, we should be basically in the top 3 for just about everything that's good. And the only reason we're not is because we are not abiding by those foundational principles that we spoke of in the beginning of the segment, like limited taxation, limited regulation, frugal spending, letting people spend their money the way they see fit, and that's what helps the economy, that's what drives it, that's what keeps unemployment low.
I was just disturbed that because I went into the article thinking immediately, oh, we're going to be in the the top
North
of this
Dakota's
one, and
in
we
the
weren't,
middle.
and I was kind of surprised.
North Dakota's in the middle of a lot,
Yeah.
for a lot of things that you'd think that can't be
That
true.
seems weird.
And it's very true. And so your question just brings up a very, very good point. If Republican governors put states in the top, why are we not? And that is, we have to look just logically. Well, perhaps we're not acting like a Republican would act if they were following the platform.
Got it. All right, so my next one is a legal insurrection article, and this one is titled Media Setting the Table to Question the Outcome of California's Recall if Larry Elder Wins. And you're familiar with Larry Elder, who's running there, and for all intents and purposes, people think that he's going to do very well in this recall election, which is coming up on the 14th. Yep. So my first quote from this one says, after the 2016 election, the left spent 4 years casting doubt on the outcome in order to make Trump's win look illegitimate. After the 2020 election, the left's allies in social media made it a thought crime to question Biden's win. win, so hypocrisy. In the California recall election, the media is already setting up a narrative to question the outcome in case Larry Elder wins. Now, the left is absolutely terrified that Larry Elder is going to do this because he could actually win this thing, and everybody kind of knows it, which would be like political nuclear bomb, because it would also have an effect on national politics. Why would it have an effect on national politics? Well, California gubernatorial candidate Larry Elder on Friday pledged to replace Dianne Feinstein, who's 88 years old, with a Republican if he wins the Golden State recall election. So what are your odds in your mind of Larry Elder, first of all, winning, and for Feinstein's future?
Feinstein will be replaced before her term is up. And if, obviously she'll be replaced by a Democrat if the question number 1 on the ballot, should Newsom be recalled, if that is not voted in favor, she'll be replaced by a Democrat. If the vote is that he should be recalled, then Larry Elder will win, and she will be replaced by a non-Democrat.
And so you're very positive of that?
I feel very comfortable with those two things. The question is whether Newsom will be recalled, and I think that's a flip of the coin.
Really? Do you think there might be some cheating going on?
Oh, I don't.
Who knows, right?
Maybe,
I mean, who
maybe.
knows?
But
Feinstein
even without,
she will not step down. She purposely was told by the Democrats, like, listen, this is precarious. You need to.
Yeah, but she's got 4 years plus to go.
Right.
So and 80. I mean, who knows? Maybe I'll be wrong.
92
but,
years old.
I think without cheating, it will be a flip of the coin for Newsom to be recalled, which is saying a lot for a sitting governor.
Wow.
A lot.
Okay, so I had one more, but this is just crazy, and I think you've already seen it. I just want to show this guy's picture. This is Logan Howler. He is 22 years old, and Rutgers bars unvaccinated student from attending virtual classes. The guy.
Virtual classes.
Virtual classes.
Yeah.
He's not allowed to go to virtual classes.
Yeah, I read about that one. It's just silly. Higher ed people, bureaucrats, they're just idiots.
It's goofy.
When it comes to common sense, they are idiots. They might know math.
On Monday, Rick will be on location.
Why not?
That'll be
Why
super
not?
cool, right? Why not? Why not? And I will be out of town, but he's going to handle things with the gun raffle. We'll see you soon.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, inventor of MyPillow. Thanks to your support, you've helped make MyPillow become one of the fastest growing companies in America. Over the last 12 years, you've helped MyPillow create thousands of jobs right here in the USA.
When I got MyPillow, I'm asleep almost immediately. I stay asleep at night and I wake up more well-rested in the morning.
That's why I invented MyPillow. My patented fill adjusts to your exact individual needs and helps keep your neck supported and aligned. I'm interrupting this commercial right now. Retailers have canceled MyPillow, and to thank you for your support, I'm gonna pass the savings directly on to you. For example, you get my 6-piece towel sets, regular $109.99, now only $44.98, or MyPillow dog beds for as low as $19.99 with your promo code.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit mypillow.com.